Hello and welcome to Mjolnir Magazine. I am James, and here with me today is Neil Westwood, an artist. Say hello, Neil.
Hello everyone.
And we're here to discuss the creation of music, specifically from the viewpoint of the artist himself. And hopefully, when you're listening to this, it'll give you some inspiration too. So, Neil, how about you can go over how an idea comes to you from music, the initial inspiration, if you will?
Well, I think my best ideas always come in the most inconvenient times, when I'm at work, when I'm really busy with something, when I'm driving, or even when I'm out walking, or where I go out hiking. Something where you're not actually thinking about music can subconsciously give you ideas. These ideas will be pretty prevalent in your mind, especially when you're outside walking, you're in a beautiful place, and the scenery is really nice. It inspires your imagination, and things can come out of that imagination that will inspire a specific piece of music, but mostly it's at a time when you don't have a pen and paper to write these ideas down, and you have to keep on thinking about it and thinking about it, because if you stop thinking about it for any point of time, you'll completely forget about it. So you'll have this same little melody going through your head over and over and over again until you get back home and find yourself a piece of paper and a pen to write it down with.
That could be quite frustrating, imagine, or quite a panic. You're trying to grasp onto this fine thread and not let go.
Yeah. And what's sad about it at times is that when you think about it too much, you can even start to lose it. And it can evolve in your head. It's like you're composing a melody in your head that's constantly evolving, and it stops becoming as good as what you once imagined it to be. And if people are listening and you play an instrument like guitar or piano, I think you'll understand what I mean by that.
Sort of overworking it when it should have been left alone.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like a lawyer would constantly thinking in his head specific ways to make arguments or specific ways to put a debate across or defend something or attack something. Musicians have that same language in their head, but except it's music. They're not thinking about the next day's court case or tomorrow's heart operation. They're thinking about their guitar or their piano or their drum kit. And that is the language in their head most commonly.
It's interesting that you mentioned it is often when you're doing something else it comes to you. Would you find that you had a holiday for a week or two? Would you find that the sort of creative sparks would dry up, or would they continue?
Well, whenever I go on holiday, if I'm in the UK, I'll try and take a guitar with me, because you can have this beautiful holiday where you go off to like the west coast of Scotland and you've got this fantastic scenery. And because you're in a specific location, you're in the Highlands, and you know its history, you live there, you know it well, it will inspire themes in your music, or maybe a specific sound that you would only have been able to achieve had you actually gone there and the environment around you had inspired you. I mean, if you pick up the guitar and you look outside and it's a rainy street outside and there's cars driving past your house, it might encourage you to make some really depressing music. However, it could inspire you to make a beautiful piece of music. So I think your environment, your location, what you're doing, whether it's at work or whether you're stuck in a traffic jam, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to drive it emotionally, positively or negatively. But it will still create something regardless.
Do you think that you've got to avoid, though, the sort of rock, like you imagine the neat archetype, that something like that would probably stifle imagination because you're not getting the stimulation anymore of work or of travel or other things to sort of spark the imagination? Or do you think it just comes from another place, that it wouldn't make any difference if you were that way?
I'm not really sure where it comes from, because like I said, I've woken up for work at 4 o'clock in the morning, been driving, and had the most perfect idea for a piece of music. And it was the most uneventful time. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, there's street lights. It's not like the sort of time where you would imagine an idea to come from. You'd expect it to be the time you've seen a meteorite or an asteroid in the sky or a sunset or something like that, or your heart was broken. But sometimes your ideas can come at the most inopportune moments and they catch you off guard. I'm sure I read once that Paul McCartney used to keep a diary or a notepad with him at all times because he would just get these ideas and he had to write them down. And I know how he feels. It's something you have to do because if you don't, you feel like you've lost something that you've created.
It's surprising how random it almost seems. I'm sure there's layers to it, and part of that, of course, is the experience and the skill base you've built up to tap into that. Like a lot of people explain, it might take somebody an expert half an hour to do something, but it also took 1,000 hours of experience to let them do it in half an hour. So it'd be interesting to know, how much of that is actually your experience. I don't know if you could elaborate that with your own life experience, like when you started off in music to now. Do you find yourself these things come to you faster or more often?
I think everybody, when I started playing guitar, and I took a long time to get good. I took a really long time to get good, abnormally long. But I had an ability that was there. I just didn't really care much when I was growing up as a teenager. I wanted to do other things. Guitar came second place. And when I got a bit older and I got more into music and more into playing guitar, I realized that my musical creativity was actually getting better along with my skills on the guitar itself, my capability on it. And I think you need to have a good knowledge of music, not necessarily to make good music, because if you're going to play a guitar, it's all well having this idea in your head, but unless you can play it, then it's useless.
So that would be a message there for anybody listening here thinking about music or frustrated with it, is that there is, unfortunately, but possibly fortunately, that there is a certain amount of work in it, and the work helps shape your own ability and your own mind in the process.
Exactly. And one of my favorite people on guitar, Steve Vai, he said something similar. He said, listen, he gets a little bit bored of people saying that he has a natural ability and he just has this natural gift or this God-given gift that he was blessed with because no one else can play guitar like him, so he must be something really special. And he said that he gets a bit like cross about that because it suggests that he never worked hard to get that good. And I'm not one of these guitar snobs that says one guitar is bad, one is good. If you love playing guitar, you love playing guitar. If you love playing piano, you do it not to be better than anyone else, because I know I'm never going to be better than Steve Vai. So I'm pretty sure that guitarists other than me aren't looking at me and saying, oh, he's really bad, he hasn't got any skills, or he's just a talentless bum on guitar. They're not saying that. And guitarists kind of have this camaraderie, I think, when we like to learn of each other. But we often tell each other truths, I think, when I've spoken to people about guitar. If I see another guitarist and he's got a problem, I say, well, maybe I can help you, and I might have this idea that might help him break that problem. I mean, I've gone on YouTube and seen guys who are like 14, 15 years old tell me how to play Pink Floyd. You're like, I'm 36 and like a kid on YouTube's doing it better than me. It's better not. I'll ever be able to do it.
Yeah. I think it's just a sort of knack there as part of it.
I just think it shows that these kids or these young people or whoever it is, they just practice harder than me, regardless.
They're dedicated to it.
Yeah, they've dedicated themselves to perfecting that solo. But then to be able to teach it on top of that effectively, I mean, that's another skill altogether.
Yeah, very true. You've got to be able to master it and then teach it.
Yeah, and you're seeing these crazy videos of like these young guys, and they're barely out of school, and they can play like they can play Steve Vai, they can play Mozart, Beethoven, Vivaldi, they can do all these crazy guitar solos. I'm like, this guy hasn't even got his first job yet. How hard did he practice to get that good at that age? And I'm 36, and I still struggle to do it.
Good inspiration, though, for anybody doubting themselves. It shows that if that kid can do it, if you're willing to dedicate yourself to something, you can approach that level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if you're maybe around about my age, let's say you're 25 to 35, and maybe you play guitar, a piano or something like that, and you think, well, maybe I've missed the boat maybe I'm never going to get that good by that age because I see all these young guys doing it so much better than me, and they've got so much more talent than me. I say to them, well, they still had to practice regardless. And if they're like 18, 19, 20, they've had what, 10 years max to practice. And if you put in the same amount of time, maybe stop playing video games so much. Maybe instead of watching an hour extra at TV, spend an hour extra on your guitar. Don't put yourself down from your ability, or you can't do this because something you've seen on YouTube, or you've seen this other person doing it so much better and getting so much more attention than you do. That's a negative way to see it. You put the dedication and the time in, and it'll happen for you. If you don't, then it's your own fault.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there. Don't look at these people that have done something fantastic and take it as something to despair over that you can't do it now. Take it as inspiration for something that you can head towards.
Yeah,
it's something that shows you what you could be rewarded with if you did spend, the 1,000 hours in it.
Yep, but I'll tell you, I mean, I'm not the greatest guitarist in the world. I'm not really overly great, but I'm a hell of a lot better in the past 3 or 4 years since I really started dedicating time to it. Like I try and spend about 2 to 3 hours a night now doing it just before I go up my bed. Sometimes when I get home from work, I'll play the guitar for an hour, maybe an hour or two. Later on, I'll play it again. And you will notice if you add on just the extra half hour, even just warm up, get into it, and you will see yourself increase exponentially really quickly. And it's not a get good quick tip. It's not like some milkshake that you're going to swallow and you're going to lose weight. I mean, you will have to put the work in.
Yeah. But it just shows you that it's a little at a time, but it adds up.
Certainly does.
You say that you just cut out that terrible TV program you feel guilty watching, or trying to get that 100% completion rate in that rubbish game you bought on Steam or something. Just, dedicate yourself to something. You keep saying, oh, I wish I'd done that, or wish I was doing that. You probably can.
And anyone can. If you can drive a car and you can go from A to B and do all the things you have to do to drive a car, change the gear, check your mirrors, check your indicators, press the brake, press the accelerator, turn the steering wheel, use the handbrake, the amount of things you have to do. If you can do that, then you can play a guitar. It's just, you will get better at it. And most people who've been driving for a certain amount of years, let's say they've been driving for 10 years, ask them what it feels like to drive, and they might say something like, well, it's almost automatic now. I just do it. I don't even have to think about it anymore. And the same thing will happen on guitar.
And as you learn those physical skills in the guitar, you then get the opportunity to have the inspiration and be more creative. Yep.
And you'll get to that level, and it'll stop being, I couldn't play that one time. So now I can play it, and now I can play that and maybe get inspiration to do my own thing from it now. And that's pretty much what music is. It's patterns, it's specific combinations of notes. There's not much music out there that hasn't been done by somebody else. And don't think for any moment in time these people just had this divine idea to think of this specific song. And they had to work hard to do it. And most of them probably did copy somebody else in some way, shape, or form, but that's just the way it is.
Very similar to learning how to use a language properly then, and do writing. You've got to learn the phrases and the words that build it up.
Exactly.
Would you find that when it comes to inspiration, that visual or audio or other people's music inspires you more, or is there a particular genre, or is it really just like, I know we're saying it's not divine from above sort of thing, it's from your own skill base and ideas that are sort of rattling in your head, but is there one thing, a particular thing that you find inspires you more, a particular genre of music, if you listen to it, say, oh, I want to make something like that, or is it actually quite different and it's a sort of background thing that just comes together from a lot of different stimulus?
I think I've absolutely got favourite bands and favourite types of music that have always inspired me more than another genre of music. I don't really like rap or hip hop or any of that nonsense. I generally like music. This is going to sound like a really snobbish thing to say. But I really like really well-written music. Like compositions. I'm not talking about I don't know, Oasis or Blur or something like that. Although, They did write good songs. They're very talented guys. I preferred more classical stuff, prog music, Mike Oldfield, Vangelis, Pink Floyd, music that kind of combined more than one or two styles and created this just audio heaven for me. I suppose that's the only way I would describe it.
So I suppose something more new and sort of creative rather than something that's just sort of rehashing what's been done. Nothing generic.
Yes, I suppose blues and rock is pretty much the same thing. I mean, deep down in heavy metal too. It's effectively the same thing because it uses the same kind of structures, the same kind of notes, the same kind of rhythms. And prog music is the same as well, to a certain extent, because you still got this rock element, a sort of blues element. But that's the beauty about prog, is that it can become something else throughout the transitioning of the song. It could start off with like some bagpipes, and halfway through the song it changed to a guitar duet. Then it could be like bagpipes again, and then it could move on to like a full orchestra. So it's constantly evolving. And that's why I liked it more, because it was more storytelling for me than quick 5-minute rock songs. Not that I got anything against rock. I mean, my favorite bands have been rock and heavy metal.
So you can appreciate the sort of genres and the musical traditions while blending them together and trying new ideas out.
Yeah, it stops you from being restricted, I suppose. At least that's what it feels like. If you can write a song and it has this progression in it, something that's constantly evolving in your head, and you say to yourself, you know what? Even though this is like a classical piece and it's very melodic right now, what I really want right now is some good old rock and roll from the 50s. And you could just throw it in there. And that's what makes it fun. That's what I love about prog music, is it's just constantly evolving. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get, especially if you listen to Mike Oldfield. I mean, some of his songs are just completely bonkers at times. But you just keep on listening, though, because they're brilliant at the same time.
He's put in the practice to get away with that kind of creativity.
He has. No one's going to point any fingers and criticize him. If he can do it, and he plays all the instruments, and some of his songs are really bonkers, but they're still musically really well written.
When you have an idea, do you find that you always follow up on it, every idea, or do some never even get out your head by choice or accident?
I think I've probably forgotten more than I've ever written down.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's and it really is torture. Because you forget it and it's gone and you've lost it and it's never coming back.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be frustrating.
It can be frustrating. I think being a musician is one of the most depressing things that you can ever be sometimes.
That's not much of an advert.
No,
but obviously rewarding as well.
Rewarding too, but it is a journey. It is a very real journey.
As long as your heart's genuinely in it.
Exactly. And you will go through some turmoil getting there. Like when you first play the guitar, especially, your fingers for the first 2 weeks will feel that they're going to fall off. And you'll just look at the guitar and just want to throw up. But keep on doing it and keep on practicing, because it does get easier. It's very easy for me to say that. But those initial months of just it being hell, that is nothing compared to the lifetime of joy that it's going to bring you.
And
so it's almost like having a kid, though. I don't have a kid, but that's probably the closest thing I could compare it to.
That's it. You're going to get a lot of dirty nappies to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
With the guitar, of course, or just about any hobby, creative thing, you're going to be absolutely rubbish at first. It'll sound terrible. You'll fluff the notes, but you've got to roll with that. Just accept it and push through it.
Yeah, no one's ever just suddenly become an expert at anything.
Yeah.
Without practicing.
That's it. And as you pointed out, with these kids, people call them gifted kids. Well, in a way, yes, but the real thing there is the fact, as you said, they've dedicated themselves. That kid's probably spent 8 hours a day practicing in his free time, which he's got a lot of, so he's done it. Good on him, for doing it. But I think some people think that, I've just got to be born with a guitar in my hand and or else it's not. I'm completely stuffed.
Did you ever see the video years ago of the kids in North Korea, and they're playing this little orchestra of guitarists, and they're in a big circle and they're all smiling and dancing and tapping their feet and playing these guitars, and they're actually really, really good at the guitar. And I thought to myself, is it because they're genuinely really good, or is it because there's a guy with an AK standing behind the camera pointing at them and saying, if you make any mistakes? And people were going on and on about how good these kids were, but complaining about how crap they were. Like, what's your excuse?
That's it. I mean, as you said, the kid's only 15. How many years of practice has he really had? Even if he's dedicated
Exactly.
a huge amount, and if somebody's 30, well, you've still got, hopefully plenty of years ahead of you, decades ahead of you. If you start practicing an hour a day, even,
exactly,
get fantastic in 10 years.
It's not unachievable. I used to think it was, but it really isn't.
The sort of younger self would have been more frustrated and saying, "I'll never get there. I'll never get there. You can't make me."
But sometimes something will happen, and it happens a few times, maybe when you're learning any instrument, where something that you couldn't figure out on your instrument, there's just some magical realm that you just couldn't cross beyond, and you see no sense in it, and you couldn't figure out how a specific thing was done, or a specific chord was done, or a specific scale, or whatever, because you'll just have a blackout as soon as you even try and do it. Then one day you will see it, and it will be the most obvious thing that you've ever realized, and you'll slap yourself for not noticing it. It was so blatantly obvious. So don't despair. Like, it's sometimes like it'll be a little accent. You'll figure something out.
So there's a bit of gradual improvement with the occasional leap.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have this fear on guitar, playing anything past the 12th fret, because for some reason in my head, when I was like younger, I just seen it as this mystical realm where only heavy metal people go. And I thought, what is this weird beyond the 12th fret thing? I mean, I was used to playing chords and like the odd riff by Led Zeppelin, but whenever it came to solo, no, I'm not going past that 12th fret. It's scary past there. Then one day I realized that it's exactly the same as the previous 12 frets, but just on a smaller scale. And that sounds so simple, but it took me years to figure this out. That all I had to do was imagine playing a really small guitar when I got further down the neck, and it really helped me because the notes are all in the same positions. It's no different whatsoever, but I just had this silly idea in my head. It was where only skilled guitarists go to, and I don't know how I got that into my head, but I hope what I was saying now is somebody at home is listening going, oh my God, he's right. And I've helped somebody figure it out, but I wish someone told me that.
I can imagine an inhibition or mental block that could stop you from progressing, or even, or more importantly, trying it, because you think that's not for me, or I couldn't possibly.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly do that.
I suppose that's just where, with the music, as you said, somebody will say, I can't learn guitar, but there's also little can'ts in the middle of it, where you say, I can't do that style, or I can't reach that part of it.
Yep, that's it. And when I realized this, I couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it. And it's little things like that, even though it was really frustrating, I can look back now and say, holy crap, I can't believe I couldn't figure that out. But that's part of the journey you're having. And it'll make you a better guitarist.
When it comes to ideas, holding on to the ideas, if you get any recommendations for people that are, maybe they've started getting the technical practice down, but they're now starting to try and compose their own things or practice on that side of the music creation, what advice would you give for grabbing onto an idea and holding on to it so they've got the time to try and create it?
Well, when I was younger, when I was like 15, 16, 17, when I was like really getting into guitar by that point, we didn't really have things to just record stuff. We had tape recorders, but they weren't very good. Some people had 4 tracks and recording things, but they were quite expensive back then, especially if you didn't have a job and you're only like a teenager. And even up until recently, it was still kind of hard to do unless you had some kind of dictaphone or some kind of MP3 recorder. But now everybody's got a phone.
Mm.
So what I do now is I've got two ideas, two suggestions that I do. The first easiest one is I just get my Samsung phone out. I go to the video thing. I'll press record, and I'll play the idea then. Yeah, I'll just hum a few bars, or even though I can't sing, I'll be in the woods and I'll just start humming into my phone if I get an idea in my head, or I'll sing it as best I can, or a specific phrase I've thought of. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be good. You're not playing it back for anybody else. So sometimes people have this fear of singing into like their own phones and listening to it back because they don't like hearing their own voice singing back to them. But remember, you're not playing it for anybody. It's going to be for you. You've got to listen to yourself sing. You've got to listen to yourself play guitar back to yourself. It's the only way you're going to get better.
Mm.
And one day you will be confident enough to record your own voice into a phone, just to put down an idea. Now, my other idea I have is I've got a GoPro camera, and I actually stuck it to the headstock of the guitar. And if I'm ever playing guitar and I'm like whittling away and I'm just jamming to a backing track, I'll press record on the GoPro. Now, the GoPro camera will face down the fretboard of the guitar. So as well as having an audio recording of the music I'm making, I'm actually getting a visual of where to put my hands and what chords I
Ah.
was using at the time. Because sometimes when you're jamming out, you can be playing for like 25 minutes and completely forget what you just played.
Yeah.
But at least with a visual aid, if you seeing your hands in the fretboard, you can get a rough visual of roughly where your hands were.
So you can, if
That's
you hear something really good, you can recreate it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mm.
just get a little GoPro stick on the end of your headstock, make it face down. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. It's just something to get an idea down. Don't go spending like £1,000 on a GoPro camera or anything like that. Just get yourself a cheap one,
Yeah.
or figure out how to attach your phone to it.
This sounds like a really good idea, actually, for people interested.
Yeah,
Also, it'd be a good way for somebody that wants to do a cheap, sort of interesting YouTube video, of their own
yeah,
playing. They could just record it. If they couldn't think of what visuals to put in the video, even the non-musically talented or practiced would be interested in watching somebody do their craft.
well, yeah. It would look cool as well. I mean, it does look cool. A camera facing down a fretboard.
Yeah. So if anybody has that inspiration to try it,
Yeah,
feel free to let us know in the comments. We'd be quite pleased at seeing the work you've done.
yeah. Or any ideas that you might have for, or tips you might have for other guitars. Let's not necessarily other guitarists. Maybe it's a guitarist podcast. But for any musician, you've got tips. Maybe, I don't know, you play an instrument and for some reason, you can achieve a particular thing there, but you figured out how to do it. How you done it? What inspired you to do it? Because that's the sort of thing we really need in this side of things, because there's not really a voice for musicians on the right, is there?
No, it's quite a small field. There's a few very notable ones which get a lot of airtime, which is good, but it's not a crowded field at all.
No, no one really speaks about it.
And you need a voice for any belief movement. You need some kind of music and culture for it, or else it's too hollow to stand up.
Yeah, and that's what music was originally for. Well, maybe not the only reason, but especially classical music was written to inspire people and to make them rise up or feel a certain way. But no one's really tapped into that in the right.
Mm.
And I don't know why, because music is so powerful and it can drive people.
And it's something that can give people strong hope as well.
Absolutely.
Which is something people absolutely need on the right, is more thought towards hope, creation and building something rather than just moping black pills and misery.
Yeah. It seems like that. I think people don't really like using the word hope on the right because it's connections with your likes of hope, not hate, and all of that sort of morally
Obama's
good stuff.
campaign, hope change.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, we need hope on this side as well.
Oh yeah, we need big visions for the future and things to work towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you need something that tells you why it's worth getting out of bed for the next 20, 30, 40 or however long years.
Yep, and music does that. I think music would do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a massive move on music on our side of things, but I really don't see it. And I wonder why nobody's ever really tapped into that.
I'm sure there are people like yourself making things, but part of the problem is that they're either not putting themselves out there because of maybe lack of confidence, or they're still not sure it's right, or it could be just because the people out there are not sharing it. They're not getting on the shows, the small networks that are out there. Well, people want to talk about, locking themselves in their bunker and waiting for doomsday instead, or some other,
right, yeah.
Sort of very negative view of the world. They want to talk about wars and things instead of thinking, well, what can I do to actually improve matters rather than just wait for disaster? And it's not just improving things for other people, because music's obviously a fantastic gift to everybody, hopefully for all time, if the music lasts. But also, it's what it does for yourself too. I'm sure you'd agree that the more you've put into the music, the better it's improved yourself. You feel better.
Well, yeah, you do. It boosts your confidence up. You get better, and you might want to play what you've learned to your friend or your mum or dad or whatever, and you'll play your guitar for them. You see the joy in their faces.
No, there's no harm in taking pleasure in other people being impressed or taking joy in it.
Yeah, I just don't want to self elevate myself too much. But sometimes, when you see somebody smiling when you play a guitar piece for them, or they've listened to a piece of their music and they said they enjoyed it, it really does feel good.
I suppose it's like when you cook a good meal for people that are visiting, staying over or visiting, you feel proud and pleased if they've enjoyed it. It's the first thing any cook or chef at any occasion wants to know is, did the people enjoy the food?
Yeah. And
I think that's something everybody can relate to, because we've all cooked something surely for somebody at one point.
Yeah, and because you want to have some kind of self-worth. You want to know that something you spent a long time doing has affected someone, whether emotionally good or bad, maybe made them think of a certain thing, or maybe just maybe they danced to it or whatever. Maybe they play it on their MP3 player when they go out jogging or something like that. I don't know, but
their day in the way to work.
Yeah, and to think that something I've created could do that for someone. I mean, any musician would love that.
Yeah.
That's not why we do it. I don't write music to make people happy or sad or give them specific emotions. I just write it in hope that someone else likes as much as I like it.
That makes sense. It's a positive way of looking at it, and it's a very down-to-earth way of self-improvement that doesn't involve quack books that promise you 10 easy steps to self-improvement.
Yeah, 10 easy steps to becoming a rock star. Just buy my book.
And for all those young men and young women that are feeling depressed and doubt, about things maybe they've kind of stumbled into the kind of truth of what's going on, or political viewpoints, and feel maybe isolated or depressed, it's a very uplifting thing to do, to get into something creative like music.
And it's something you could, or writing, or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean that's it. Obviously we're talking about music in this, but if there's other creative outlets that draw you, people really should get into it and do it, because if you've got the time to sit and mope on social media and YouTube and image boards complaining about stuff, you've got at least half an hour a day surely to pick up a guitar, or whatever it is your forte. But for instance, a guitar. But you've got the time, so the excuses are what's holding a lot of people back, and it's only making their life worse. They get depressed, and they end up with the sort of neat stereotype.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure you'd agree that it's a fantastic thing to be able to have a guitar, and people will be impressed and interested in you because, oh look, there's a guy with talent. Something you can show off and impress people and entertain them.
Yeah, there's a flip side to that though, because whenever you have a large gathering or go to one, I pray when I go to New Year's parties or whatever that there isn't a guitar there, because there's always somebody that knows you play guitar and they all want you to play Hotel California or something like that. And I don't know how to play Hotel California, and they look at you. I thought you could play guitar. Everyone can play Hotel California, but you can't. You got to learn how to do it quickly in your mobile phone. But it's a curse though, because people, they say, well, play something. Well, what do you want me to play? It doesn't really work like that. I don't just pick up the guitar and start playing Hendrix or Led Zeppelin or anything like that.
Mm.
I just play whatever comes to my head. But people
Yeah.
sometimes demand stuff off you. Be creative right now, and it doesn't
Like a
really work.
jukebox.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just open my mouth and you can put a pound coin in there and I'll play
Could be
any
worth
song
a
you want.
while. Could be good money in that.
Yeah. I mean, buskers do it, but parties is different. You want to go to a party or a gathering and get
Relax a
drunk
bit.
and talk. You don't want to be a entertaining monkey for people who haven't got any musical ability.
Although, I suppose the other side of that is that it's nice to at least know that you're in demand.
That's it.
People are
That's it.
looking to you and saying, "Oh, this guy has skill and he's entertaining." Who do I turn to? Oh, Neil.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's it.
any gift, I suppose, can be a burden when you look at it a certain way. But it must be nice though when you're outside of that situation. At least you can look back and say, "Oh, it was nice that the first thing they thought when it came to music was myself."
That's it. I've played a few bands before, a few live gigs, and I would say I get more nervous playing in front of my mum and dad than what I've ever been playing in front of like a crowd of people.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it's terrifying. My legs start shaking, my arms start shaking, like I'm making mistakes everywhere. They're just like, it's just us. Oh, we know everything about you.
Of course, yeah. And I suppose you'd know that they might not just be polite with whatever they say, they might be more frank.
Yeah, critical. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, you need to work on this, son. Sure. But it drives you though, you know.
It must be good though also to have genuine criticism. You're not just
Yeah,
somebody blowing smoke up you and just telling you everything's wonderful.
yeah. You get some real good criticism from your friends and family.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing because that's what you need. You
Yeah.
need people to tell you, no, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this completely wrong. You need people like that because your first reaction as a musician is always gonna like be scowling at them and telling them to bugger off, and they don't know anything about music. That's your first reaction. But when you sit back and have a word with yourself, would they say it if they were deliberately being obtuse or just to try and wind you up?
Mm. You'll never improve if you think you're playing perfect.
Exactly.
So you need something just to sort of remind you that you're only mortal after all.
Yeah, yeah. And you're not Jimmy Page.